In this video, I will demonstrate how to replace the LCD screen in a Toshiba Satellite laptop model T135D-S1320 with one purchased from laptopscreen.com. The resources that you'll need for this project include a flat, well-lit surface with a soft cloth to protect the computer and also to catch any runaway screws, a small bladed knife, a small regular blade screwdriver, a small Phillips screwdriver, several containers in which to collect the screws that you'll remove, and of course the replacement screen itself. The 6 basic steps of this project are to disconnect all power sources, remove the bezel, uninstall the defective screen, install the new screen, replace the bezel, and reconnect power. To disconnect the power sources, make sure that you unplug both the AC power as well as remove the battery. The battery is removed by sliding this tab out and holding the other one out while you remove the battery. To remove the bezel, you first must remove the covers from the 4 bezel screws. There's one on each corner, and just for the purposes of convenience, I've tipped the computer over in this direction to give me easier access. There's an adhesive on the back of them, so you can just stick it to the cover, stick it to the bezel for safekeeping. Just be careful when you're lifting them out so as not to tear them, so that you can replace them again when you replace the bezel. Next, take the Phillips screwdriver and remove the bezel screws that secure each of those corners. There are 4 of these, and it usually helps if you can put them in one of the containers. Keep them separate from the other screws that you will be pulling out from the inside. These are relatively simple to get to. Access is pretty convenient for these. Once you have the screws removed from the bezel, you can flip the computer back over to its normal position, and then put your fingers underneath the edge of the bezel against the screen and begin to slide your fingers under that inside edge till you hear the little popping sound of the tabs releasing that hold the bezel to the lid of the computer. You'll have to go all the way across the bottom to release that. And to make sure that these hinge covers are released, take your flat blade screwdriver and lift on those as well. Then you can take the bezel and set it aside until it's time to replace that at the end of the project. We're now ready to remove or uninstall the defective screen. You're going to first take off the 4 screws that are right here on the front. Note that the corner of those brackets also has an opening for a screw, but that's where the bezel screw went into, so when you reassemble it or install a new one, don't fill those holes with that screw. Also, just as a matter of safety, find a box or big book to set behind the lid so that when those screws are all out, the lid doesn't just fall to the back. The next set of screws to remove are the 2 screws that hold the screen to the rail. There are 2 of these on each side. Once the defective screen is released from the rails, you can just lay it gently down on the keyboard to reveal the cable connection that has to be disconnected to complete the uninstallation of the defective screen. The final step of the uninstall for the screen is to disconnect the cable from the screen. This is a very delicate operation, so be very careful with this. With your screwdriver, first of all, lift the plastic tab that holds this, and it also has some adhesive on it to secure it to the receptor, the receiver end of the cabling connector here. If you lift it up, you'll see that there are two very, very small, and I know you can't see it on the video here well, but when you get up close, you'll see there are two almost little wing tabs that are part of the connector, one on each side, have a little depression in them. But in order to get this out carefully, just begin to work each side very gently, and you'll see the connector begin to disengage from the receptor on the screen, like so. And once it's all done, then just continue to lift the cable, which is attached with some adhesive, off of the screen. There we go. The defective screen is now uninstalled, disconnected. You can set that aside and get your new screen. To install the new screen, then you need to take it out of the packaging material that it came with. You'll notice that there's a plastic film that's on the front side of the screen, and the back side just has the connector ready to receive the cable. Probably the easiest thing to do is to try to connect the cable first before you get it secured down with the adhesive. So very gently take that tab, hold it back, align the connector, making sure that it's flat, and then slide it in, squeezing those two together. You can probably do this just with your thumb, and then press down on the cable that has the adhesive on it again, and your new screen is connected to the cable. After you have removed the protective film that's on the front of the new screen, you can install the new one by just reversing the order that you used in taking the old one out. Reinstall the bezel by first placing it over the hinges and then carefully aligning the edges with the lid of the laptop and beginning to snap those tabs back into place. Make sure that you've got them all securely fastened before you proceed. Then you can replace the bezel screws and the bezel screw covers. With the bezel reconnected, we can then reconnect the power supply. Put the battery back in this case. We're not going to reconnect the AC at this point. Then we can check the power, see if it fires up, And there we have it. Your new screen is installed in the Toshiba Satellite T135D-S1320.